Welcome to our Brave Feminine Leadership interview series, where I get to dig into delicious conversations with global leaders. And I get to ask them all about women in leadership, but we get to soak up their wisdom and perspective on life and leadership generally. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome Craig Tiley to the conversation. Craig, it is wonderful to have you with me.
Thanks, Melissa. Great to be here with you.
So you probably don't need an introduction, but let me jump in anyway. So I'll briefly touch on your bio and then we'll get going on our conversation. So Craig Tiley is recognised as one of Australia's most innovative and forward-thinking CEOs. His involvement initially as tournament director from 2006 and then as CEO of Tennis Australia from 2013 has seen the transformation and incredible success of the Australian Open. It's Craig's relationship with the players and relentless focus on improvement that sees the tournament as one of the players in Australia's favourite sport and entertainment events. Prior to Tennis Australia, he was tennis director at University of Illinois and twice earned the US National Coach of the Year award. Craig's also been a lieutenant in the Army and was the 6th ever recipient of the South African Army Merit Award. Craig, so much for us to get into in this conversation that I'm fascinated to start. For people who haven't come across you before, would you share with us, who are you as a human being?
Oh, a tough question. I think you get shaped by your experiences and your background, and I've been fortunate that I've lived on 3 different continents, lived in different parts of the world. I've had to battle through as a youth for opportunity, and I think had to work hard for everything I've ever got in life, and haven't been given anything, and had to earn it. And so I think you do get shaped by those experiences, and I think the interaction with people. I think the first thing for me would be, I have a passion for people, and I love being around people. I'm a bit of a socializer, definitely not socializer. Because I do enjoy being around people. I got into the profession of coaching and teaching, and tennis has happened to be the vehicle. It could have actually been anything, because I do enjoy seeing people improve and give opportunity, and the coaching was a great passion, because you every single day could have an impact, and I really loved that. And in many ways, in this leadership role I have today, you're doing the same thing. You're coaching and you're teaching, and I take full advantage of those environments where you can do that. So I think when you have something on your journey of life, when there's something that you have a deep passion for, and you're able to then apply that to your professional life, you get very lucky. And that's where I consider myself very lucky, because it has been in teaching and coaching, and tennis happened to be the platform and the vehicle, and I've had the experience in all facets of the sport, and I think that and then the deep passion I have for people's improvement and being around people is part of that. So it all matches very well to this choice profession, where you entertaining people, you develop them, trying to help them become tennis players, you're trying to persuade them to play the game, and then at the same time, everyone, when I look at everyone, is I accept and recognize people's differences, but I don't treat anybody differently. And I think and it doesn't matter if you ranked 500 in the world, or if you Serena Williams and Rafa Nadal or Roger Federer, you'll get treated the same. And it doesn't matter if you come from a background in the middle of Africa with no opportunity, or you come from a background in a major city with all the opportunities. So for me, I do pride myself on treating everyone the same.
Where's that come from, Craig?
That's a good question, and I know I have been asked that question before. Probably from early stages in my family. We grew up in apartheid South Africa. Our conversation around the table was this is the wrong form of not only government but leadership. There's nothing that was right about it. And as a family, what could we do to make a difference? And having the conversation and being open and transparent about it, and then and then I think I knew that my future wasn't there, and I knew my future had to be somewhere else. But then I was, and I left the country before all the changes happened, and my family stayed and were part of those changes, so in a good way. And so I think definitely seeing that and seeing every single day what's wrong about where you live is something that gives you more empathy and more activism. And I do consider myself a bit of an activist, and then going to live in the US where it was very different. But still depends where you live in the US, because there's always an undertone of racism or an undertone of bias. And then coming to Australia and similarly, whether it be, I do think that you on the spectrum of people, you're going to find those that will take action to ensure that there's never any form of lack of respect or discrimination for any reason. And on the other spectrum, you'll be those that that still think that's right and or appropriate. So it doesn't matter what environment you're always going to get it, and in some you get it more extreme than in others, depending on culturally where you are. So I've always been in tune to that, and always had an eye and an ear for when it happens. And I think that's where I've been very lucky, because I've never been blind to it, and then because of the role I play on and I always tell people this, and this is a common statement, is that you'll meet the same people on the way up in your career as you will on the way down. And
yes.
So if you treat people differently, then expect yourself to be treated the same. So I think that's you like it in your background. If you don't have it in your background, then you got to work hard to create it.
So I wonder, in your career, I remember you telling me that you had a desire to sort of live on 5 continents. What was this a phase of being intentional about what you did with your life, or where did that all come from?
I think it was a young phase. I wanted to explore. I had come from a bit of a family of explorers, and my brother who sails around the world, my sister who's lived all over the place, my other brother who runs his own business right through Africa, my father who I held deep sea diving records and climbing records, and was a pilot and parachutes, and he did all sorts of adventurous things. So I think we came from a family, and my mom, who was a teacher actually, and I think we came from a family that everyone tried everything, and we always gave everything a go, and it was sometimes extreme stuff, but there was no fear in the group to do it, and we did it as young kids, and we did give everything a go. And we either walked or rode our bikes to work to school as a family, and nothing was designed to be easy. Everything was designed to make sure that you put in your own effort. And I think at the very young age, I said, I wanted the world to be small for me. And so I wanted to discover it and learn different languages and live on different continents, be around different people. And wherever that took me is where it would take me. So, I think I'm on, I've got two to go, or one to go, one continent to go.
Hopefully we get to hang on to you for a while. So
we love it here. We do love it.
Do you bring your family up the same way, do you think? Are you jumping out of planes and doing things that I haven't heard about?
There are moments where we would do something which is probably on the edge, but probably not the same. I think we live in a much more risk-averse world now than we used to, and so that kind of goes along with it. But maybe sometimes it's considered an old school approach. But I am. I do believe kids and people should get out into the water and get out into the land and go and live in other people's environment, go and spend some time giving back. And so, with our kids, I'm hoping they've been brought up with empathy and with respect for others, and put other people ahead of themselves first, and not being selfish. But it's hard, because I think we live in a different world today, and you are a product of the environment in many ways. And if you can't adjust that environment or move the environment in the direction you need to change it. And it's either by influencing the environment to change it, or get out of it and get to another one. And I think that's got to be recognized. You've got to do that early.
You and I had a conversation when we first met around feedback broadly and performance improvement. And I'd just love to get straight into that with you. I love that your journey has been as a coach, elite coach, and then into elite leadership roles along the way. Just want to explore with you. I mean, I have a personal sort of belief that people just don't get enough feedback in the corporate environment. Either leaders are reticent to give it, people don't want to hear it, but there's just not enough good actionable feedback going on. Can I just get your take on all of this, and then perhaps some things we need to do to get better at it?
Yeah, it's a great comment, because it is at the core of everything improving. And there's several kinds of feedback. Your positive feedback, negative feedback, no feedback, but all of it's feedback.
Yes.
And I'm of the view that as a leader or as an aspiring leader, if you have two ways you can approach things. The first way, you can view yourself as being the keeper of all the information and the holder of all the expertise. And you're on top of the pile, and you've got this right to be up there, and therefore to stay up there, you've got to keep all the information and hold all the expertise. Or on the other hand, you can be the leader who asks the first question for feedback, or doesn't say the first thing, or listens and acknowledges that comment or that position. And people talk about, leaders of yesterday versus leaders of today. I think even today there's those two on the spectrum of leadership I gave on the left hand side and on the right hand side, the two spectrums. And I think a lot of people still exist on that spectrum. I think there's fewer on the command and control spectrum, and then there more is on the open listening spectrum. Maybe even there's even more on the laissez-faire spectrum, which is just very much more relaxed as a leader.
Yeah.
So I if you have a natural inclination to want to know about people, you're really more than halfway there. And if you don't have that natural inclination, then that's part of the thing you have to work on as a leader. Is you need to, any environment you're in with people, you need to find out who they are, what are their names, what's their story. And you want to know that before anyone needs to know yours. And I think that it's little techniques. You get in the elevator, you say hi to everyone. How's your day? How are you doing? If you remember someone's name, it's Belinda. How did the day go? What do you think? What can we do better? You have maybe a few seconds in the building to do that, or you're walking out the building. There's nothing wrong with saying, have a great night. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We'll see you, Jan. It was really good what happened today. What do you think? So I think in that context, it's very easy to do that, and even strangers. And I make a point is that when I meet someone, I get their name and I make a point of reconnecting with them, even if it's a complete stranger, any way, any form. And from that, I've had many sliding door moments that have really helped my career. And people I've reconnected with in an environment I never met them or met them for the first time have gone on to become some of my best friends and have gone on to become some of my great mentors. So I am definitely of the view that you have to have that openness and that energy, and people need to know that you're a gateway to their improvement, and you're an open gateway to their improvement, and they see a pathway through you for them to be better.
How do you, can you even do this? But, if you think about your role as a tennis coach and then you think about your role as a CEO, what have you directly taken from coaching into that role?
The improvement of the person you're with is more important than your own. And then it could be the person or the people. So when you're coaching, you are imparting your knowledge and your experience to the environment, and you're hoping that the student will take some of that and pick some of that up so that they can become better. Now, in this case, they want to be a better tennis player or want to be better, whatever it may be. And I'm in that environment for that period of time to try and help them become better. And you can take that exact principle and put it when you're leading an organization or people, and your job is to find a way for them to become better. Now, if you have the skill to bring in great talent, and then you create the environment for them to become better, that's when you fly. If you don't have great talent, you've got to find a way to develop and have talent improve. And then again, you give them the environment where they can become better, and then they can fly. And I think that's at the crux of leadership. And that's why, if you were a coach and if you had success as a coach or success as a teacher, in other words, your students, the relationship they had a great deal of respect for, and they recall you as someone that impacted and made a difference in their lives, you can take that skill into leadership. And it's the number one skill that you need to have, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
I don't think people say, I've got to be a good communicator or a good collaborator. And these are all leadership buzzwords. But at the core of it is, can you improve the people's lives who are in the environment, in your environment and in the environment of the organization?
Craig, how did the journey go from, coming over as tournament director here with Tennis Australia? How did that sort of journey progress into the CEO role?
Yeah, well, even before that, I was running a business in the US. I was enjoying the work I was doing, having success, and I was loving living there. Had great group of friends. And then a job popped up in Australia, and I was contacted by it. I thought, that's never been on my radar. Although there's one continent that I haven't been to live on yet, but never been on never been on the radar. And then I thought I'd come down and have a look, and I came down and had a look, and I really liked the people and liked the opportunities. So I jumped into it, and I went back and, I left my business, resigned from the job I also had. And then within a few months I was here, and I didn't know anybody really and didn't know anything, and had to quickly learn. I had this perception that Australian tennis was the best, but it was in a bad position at that time. There was, and there was lots of things that needed to change. And I was going through a journey of discovery on those changes. And I was fortunate. The principles of how I approach leadership and how I approach people always stayed the same. And I was also learning how to be better at it as well as I went on this journey. So I was charged with it on a 3-month contract to make the change. And I was charged with that opportunity. So I went around the country, completely overhauling the performance side of the business, the player development side of it. And then after about a year and a half of doing that, then I was asked to be the tournament director. And I didn't think they expected at that point. And it was only part of the role I was given. And I thought I'll transform that. And then I think in that period of time of 5 years, I just worked hard every day, tried to do the best I could possibly do, always listened to people, always promoted people, wanted people to do well. And when it was talent, I recognized we had talent, I made sure that they really had the tools to be great. And we had success, and the tournament started to transform, and the business started to make money. And then the board asked me to become the CEO. And that was another moment for me where I was about to go back to doing something else in another part of the world. And then I decided, no, that this will be another fun journey to have. And so I've had 3 different jobs in the same company. I don't think I would have been here this long if I just had one job, because I also believe change is a good thing. And for most people, the pain of change is greater than the pain of losing. So people would choose to lose over change. And I've always tried to encourage in my leadership journey is that, embrace change. You should want change, an insatiable desire for change, because then you can open up your world. So from a personal point of view, I was at that point of making that decision. And I look back, and it was definitely the right decision, because the organization's grown. It's quadrupled in revenue. We're close to 1 million people coming through the gates. We have a big impact on the country and the economy, and it's great to be in this privileged position. And as long as we keep improving and I'm enjoying it, and people feel like they're getting benefit from my leadership, I'll stay. When those stop, I'll go.
Who coaches you?
Oh, it's a good question. Everyone is my first answer. I learned some things this morning. We did a team chat to our 600 staff, and now one of our leaders in technology, a new leader, shared a story. And what I learned from his story is that when I first met him, I didn't ask enough to find out more about his story. And it was a reminder that you can't be constrained by time. Spend more time with people. And I just got that quick reminder this morning. And so you learn every day. You learn from the people in your organization. You learn from the people that are around you. You learn from your family. You learn from your partner. You learn from your kids. You learn every day. And so I have that in an informal way. And in a more formal way, there's certain people in the world that I talk to that sometimes they don't know they're coaching me because I'm just having a conversation. And other times I ask them for their advice. And there'll be leaders of industry. There's a few in the US and a few in Europe. And I just, I always lean on them if there's something I want to ask. But I also call people randomly. And I'm a big believer in connecting. I have a discipline every day. There's no less than 3, no more than 5 people I contact randomly every single day. And I do it by email or by text or by phone or by WhatsApp. And I did it this morning. It can be a family member, or it can be someone that you haven't spoken to a long time. It can be someone, but it's part of my random contact group. And I just do it as a discipline, and it can take sometimes 2 minutes, sometimes can take 15 minutes. And it's totally worth it. Last night, I only got it done late last night, and I contacted the person I saw at the Grand Prix that I hadn't seen in about 10 years. I contacted someone I met for the first time at the Grand Prix who's gone back to Italy now. And I contacted someone that I wanted to get some advice from on something that I haven't spoken to in about 4 years. And so
that's amazing. I really love that. I'm always encouraging people to build deep networks, not superficial networks.
Correct.
And this sounds like these are really deep networks that you're building. What other disciplines do you have?
So that's one. That's probably the top one. I'll talk about the disciplines I don't have that I should have, because you learn more from those.
Love to hear those.
Yeah, the disciplines I don't have is the management of my time in a more structured way. I think there's 24 hours in a day, and I can get it done in 24 hours. And because of that, I do it in 23, so I take all day, whereas I could do it in less. So the discipline of time management is an ongoing battle for me.
Yes.
Because I always want to be available, and I always want to be accessible, and I don't want to miss out.
Yeah.
And so that's a problem. And then with that, the other thing is, I think you absolutely have to have time out for physical and mental health, and I do that in a very unstructured way. And because I'm running around big stuff the whole time, I'm saying to myself, that's covering a lot of my activity. Yes. I'll walk up the stairs, I'll walk down the stairs for 8 stories, I won't jump in. I'll do those things, and that's covering my activity. And I think it's probably better sometimes to carve out a period of time,
yes,
and actually be disciplined in making that time. So don't do that well. But other disciplines I have is that I don't. I make sure that I don't eat a lot. I don't eat unwell. I eat healthy. I'm lucky and I enjoy healthy food. And I'd rather snack on grapes than go and sit and have a big lunch. I'm not a big lunch eater, so going to meet someone with a lunch is one of the things I like the least. Is lunch eating meetings. I'm not a fan of those, because I don't think you don't get much exercise with just your mouth. So the discipline I have is probably the second discipline I have outside of the connecting is also making sure that I'm always accessible. And that has, it's pluses and minuses, but I'm easy to get hold of. And I do pride myself on responding. I think it's out of COVID that's got a little bit more out of control, because actually we were talking about yesterday, the team was talking about our database for our invitations for our VIP hospitality in the Australian Open. We normally invite 8,000 to 9,000 people that come, and that we invite, and they don't all come, because some people on holiday and that kind of stuff. And we're talking about how we're going to have an accurate database. And someone said, well, we'll just go to your address book. And then I looked at my address book, and I pretty much have more than that in my contacts. And so my contacts have all the updated ones. So that's what we're going to use. So I think that, so that it can get out of control as well.
That's fascinating to me, that discipline of connecting with people. So having that connection of random sort of, people and reconnection comes ahead of disciplined exercise for you.
Yep.
What's the value that's supporting that connection, do you think?
It goes with my philosophy of really getting into other people's world first. So I'm willing to sacrifice what I need to do for myself over that. Kind of always been that way. I don't consider that a burden. I consider that an opportunity. And I think this afternoon I do mentor a lot of other people too. And I'm catching up with someone for an hour, and I'll sit down for an hour and I'll do a lot of mentoring, but I'm actually going to learn a lot as well. So I'm really excited about that. So that's I feel like that's my break today, that session for an hour.
I can tell, obviously, that, not only are you a very successful leader, but humble also, right? And I can hear that coming through in spades in our conversation and when we first met. And so the next question you're probably not going to love, but I read, I think it was probably the Fin Review magazine, and forgive me if I've got it wrong, but there was a lovely big article on Jane Herdlicker, who was a client of mine. So I know Jane. I read the article with interest. And knowing that you and I were having this conversation, it was one of those moments where your name popped up through the article. And it was Jane talking about having met you. This is long before she was associated with the board, certainly, but seeing you and thinking, I can learn something from Craig. What do you think it was that she saw?
Well, coming back to the first point is that I'm personally not a fan of, I'm a background person. So when I have and over COVID, I had my face on the news a lot, and I prefer that not to be the case, but it goes with the territory. So you have to just accept it. But I think, I recall that conversation Jane and I had, and it was, again, just sharing of insights. Jane's our chair. I learn a lot every day from her. And I'm proud of the fact that I have, been the biggest advocate for creating a diverse leadership group and diversity on our board and diversity in our executive team and diversity in our business, and keep pushing it, because it's an ongoing journey. I don't think you ever arrive when you need to change for diversity and for inclusion. And that conversation, I remember, and it was more around at that point when she was at Qantas and Jetstar, there was some issues with the pilots union and engaging the pilots union, and she just wanted to understand how my approach was with the players, because we don't employ the players. They're independent contractors. There's 650 of them. And so they're a very big cohort. They're international, and you've got to influence them every single day. And then you've got to have them come and make some tough decisions against them and for them, and got to still get them to love the tournament and love the experience and love you, so you can make those decisions. And so we just had that conversation on the techniques that I used. And the biggest technique that was to create a personal relationship. You pick out first the key influences, and that's where you spend your first energy, and then you go to everyone, and everyone knows that anyone can talk to you at any time. I built an office down for the tournament, opened the front door, took the doors off the wall, but make it a completely glass office. It would normally be like I'm sitting here now on a hot desk and an open desk, because I don't have an office. I don't want an office.
No.
But when we're downstairs with a tournament, we have a space, and the players have to walk past that so they have to go to the locker room. They have to walk past it to the change rooms, and so I can engage with them every walk they make there and back with all 650 for a period of 4 weeks, and I spend a lot of energy in doing that. And then when we have problems come along, we have issues we've got to deal with, I can call them up personally, we can have a discussion, and it's dealt with.
That is, there's so many incredible things you've just brought up there, but also just, I think, given me a lot more insight into your role, because I hadn't necessarily understood the enormous stakeholder management complexity of that part as well.
It is. And I can pride myself in the fact that every single of the 600 plus players, I know their name, and most of them I know their story, and it keeps churning too, because some retire, some come in, but I work on it. And I think that's why they love, one of the reasons, not the only, that's one of the reasons why they love the Australian Open, because it's personalized for them.
Yes.
And I think when the team see that, then they do the same.
Yes.
So then it just spreads with everyone. And it's really the only way that I know how to lead. So if someone told me there's this other box how to lead and I gave it a go, I don't know if it would succeed or not, but it's the only way that I've really learned how to lead. and I had some really good, when I did my master's degree, I had a really good professor who was who actually, we had a subject to teach, and we never for a whole year spoke about the subject. But it was all about what was important in changing people's lives and leading and how to include people, and he just had a passion for that. And then I would ask questions around that, and then and it was and thank goodness it was that conversation versus the conversation, because he was a statistics teacher.
Oh, wow.
So I had, it was one subject which I always struggled with, and I saved it for the end of my master's degree because it's something I should have done at the beginning because I hated it.
Yes.
But man, this was a year of great teaching, and it wasn't statistics.
My husband, who is a teacher, we were just talking on the weekend about statistics was his least favourite subject.
Yeah, well, I'm with your husband.
Yeah, and he failed it, so I suspect he might need this. Yeah, he might need this connection. So,
and I think that's important, Melissa, too, is that I actually embraced failure. I didn't accept it.
Yeah,
but I embraced it as just another opportunity, and that's my father taught me that, and because he went through very moments. He went from highly successful career to nothing, another highly successful career, and so we were kids when that journey was happening. So and he taught us about failure and how to manage it. And I think that was really probably, when I reflect now, those were great lessons.
So let's go to that time where, and you brought it up earlier around having to be front of newspapers. I don't want to assume that's the hardest point in your leadership career. I'm going to ask you that question. What has been the hardest point? And let's just see where the conversation takes us. Yeah,
I think if I look recent, I think the hardest point was over the last year was definitely Novak Djokovic leaving Australia, and the intensity of the media around that. There was media parked outside our house for 2 weeks. There was security alerts. There was death threats. There were, there was in the community, there were comments about being an anti-vaxxer and being labeled something, and then being blamed for decisions. And so all that went on. There was a lot of noise. What I learned during that period is step away from the noise, and this happened accidentally. Step away from the noise and focus on the things you can control, the things you can make a difference in. And the things I could make a difference in were getting the tournament going, getting the players on the court, and starting with the tournament, doing the best job we can and delivering a great event for the state and for Australia. And entering into the narrative and entering into the noise and the debates and trying to defend our position or say what our experience was not going to be something that was going to change anything.
No.
So that was an early decision that we made, and that really helped me mentally, because I was then enabled to actually be really relaxed. And I was in that period. I slept well when I had my few hours of sleep, and I avoided reading and watching and looking at the media because that can be easy to wind you up or not.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people in the media that are friends that they're doing their job. I acknowledge that, and but I also know what I did and what we did, so I was comfortable with that. And so that was a really intense period. What I learned by myself is you have to get the noise out of your thinking.
Yes.
And you've got to find a way to do that, because there's just more of it. And it was intense. I had family members calling me from around the world, reading the front pages of papers. And what was great about it, I had friends come out the woodwork that I hadn't spoken to in 20 years that now I'm talking to because of that.
Yes.
So there's some positives. But it was a hard time. And then the year before that is having all of, 1,300 people. We flew on 30 planes ourselves, which we funded, into Australia, putting them in 15 days of lockdown.
Yes.
And you've got the best athletes in the world, the only event that's ever done this, or only business, and then put them to lockdown and having to communicate about 6 hours a day with the different groups through Zoom, through online, and being absolutely abused and complained to, and they're still having to front it and tell them what's going on and how we're trying to improve it, and decisions were made by health officers that were not decisions we just had to implement. We couldn't change them like they may think we could.
Yes.
So that was a hard period of intense 15 days, not much sleep, but dealing with the playing group. But great respect for them, the way they came out of that, and then went out and played. Great respect. In fact, that was a year Tennis Australia paid for 30% of the entire prize money that was available for the profession of tennis the entire year around the world.
Wow.
We funded 30% of it. So proud of the fact that we kept that going. And then I think other moments from a leadership perspective was probably in the army when I was thrust very quickly into leadership role. I had a large platoon of people that I had to lead. Many of them were older, more experienced than I was, some more educated. I hadn't finished my degree yet. I'd been playing some tennis professionally and came back to the country to the army. I did some extra time because then they helped fund your education. And I was put into an officer's leadership role and have to lead this group of people. And I think that was a time where I learned a lot. I learned about your physical limits, your mental limits in pain. And I learned you go a lot farther than you think you can go. And that's really helped me with appreciating, how far I could push myself.
How do you manage your response? When things happen outside of your control, how do you manage that?
I thought I would respond very differently because I think I used to be more of a control freak than I am today.
Yeah.
Where I feel like I've got to be on top of everything.
Yeah.
Try and make a difference in everything. And now I'm a bit more relaxed by it because I've learned from people around me who tell me that. And but the one thing that I want to control and that I will always want to control, and that's my response. And as you become more experienced, you take more time for your response and you think a bit more about what your response should be, or you've had a lot of practice so you can pull one of those things out the drawer. And it's interesting, you thrust into different environments. I came back from Miami last week and I flew from LA to Miami, and I get on the plane and I sit in a seat, and the person sitting next to me, I think I've seen somewhere before, kind of recognize, not recognize. And anyway, so I sit next to her and I thought, shall I ask them or shall I not say anything? My personality is I say, hey, how you doing? American accent. And it turned out to be John Voight, the actor John Voight. And then I said to him, I said, look, you probably hate this. We've got a 4-hour flight. I want to know a lot about your life and Angela Jolie. And then I was intrigued. And do you mind if we have a conversation? He said, I think you've sat next to the wrong guy because I want to have just as long a conversation with you as you're going to have with me. And we talked for like 4.5 hours.
I love that.
And then at the end of it, he gave me a lift and he gave me his number. He said, when you're in LA, stop by, you can have a chat. But it was just, it was interesting people. And the reason why I bring it up, because, my response to that was to get to know someone.
Yes.
And my follow-up response was to stay connected. Where previously, in the early stages of my leadership, I wasn't so focused on the response. I was more focused on the control.
Yes. Okay. That's fascinating. You and I best not sit together on a plane because I often get teased for making friends whilst on flight, probably annoying plenty of people I'm sitting next to, but what a great opportunity.
Well, it was. I mean, some of our best friends here in Australia, we met on a plane.
That's so lovely. I love that story. That one of my focuses in these conversations is, how do we inspire more females into CEO roles, and how do we sort of fix what I see as a wonderful opportunity for us? Why do you think there are not more female CEOs? Do you have thoughts on that?
I do. I have lots of thoughts on it.
Yeah.
I think. If the spectrum of diversity and inclusion and respect and empathy and humbleness, on that spectrum is, as we get into an environment where we choose to not make decisions that are in the best interest of others.
Yeah.
And we choose to make decisions that are in the best interest of us. And I think that selfishness causes lack of inclusion, lack of diversity, lack of humbleness, lack of empathy. And so it has to start with the individual. And it's very clear, and you can see it in night and day. I grew up in an environment that discriminated, so I can see discrimination at immediately. I think I have the privilege of being able to see it before most people do.
Yes.
But on the other hand, then I also see, if you're not around a group of people that come from different backgrounds, have different representation, have different views and different thoughts, how can you be really good? How can you excel? You can't excel. Woman leadership of women, immediately provide that diversity.
Yes.
Immediately provide that different thinking of thought. So why not? Why are you not going to give yourself the best chance to excel and be great? And to do that, you've got to welcome anyone into an environment so you can have that diversity. And people say, well, like in tennis, women play 2 out of 3 sets, men play 3 out of 5. It's more valuable. And I totally disagree with that, because I've got the numbers to back it up. And it's about the quality, and paying women equal prize money for us, we've been doing for over 30 years, is good for our business, and it promotes and supports our business, and we make money. And so, so this whole thing about like not making money or not profiling that people don't watch, it's hogwash. It's old fashioned, it's hogwash. And people that are saying that are probably not, they're never going to get to a point where they're going to promote. So that's a bit of background. I can go on and on this one, but it's a bit of background on the thinking. But coming to your question on why, they're not CEOs, I think the first thing is those people that are in positions of leadership need to have a high level of accountability of ensuring that there's an opportunity for women leadership in an organization or in an environment. And that may take different thinking. So like when you go out to market and you advertise for a job, a guy's going to approach it differently to a woman.
Yes.
And so know that, and then you have a panel and you have an interview. If it's made up of all men, you're probably not going to hire the woman. So that panel better have a diversity. Then when they come on a team and a leadership team, they can't come into a team of all men.
You said something to me that fascinated me about that in terms of your own organisation around interview panels.
Yeah. If there's not diversity on the panel, I won't sign off on the candidate. And if there's not diversity in the interview, I won't sign off on the candidate. And if there's not ongoing choice of woman, I won't sign off on the candidate. And so that's kind of, you would consider that's a quota approach.
Yes.
I'm not averse to it, because if organizations are not moving the dial, there needs to be some kind of mechanism put in that forces the movement. That's why I come back to accountability. Either the STIs of the leaders or the LTIs of the leaders, or a requirement that there has to be, a certain number. We have a board. We have equal number of men and women on our board, on our executive team, and our senior leadership team. We're probably about 50-50 across the organization. It goes up and down around that number. We spend the same money on women as we do on men. So it's not really even a conversation in our organization. It's just an acceptable. What we're working on now is ensuring that we're even more inclusive, not just for women in leadership, but also for First Nations people of different multicultural backgrounds, and it's not token. And I also can sniff out tokenism, and that's just as bad as tokenism is just as bad as lack of diversity. So so I think it's something you've got to be active on every day. It's not a strategy that you have; it's an action that you have. And I think that, and I've seen the benefit. We've grown. I would say we've grown as an organization because we have more women leaders.
I love it's an action you have, not a strategy you have. That is fantastic. We're at risk of going for a 4.5-hour conversation here, Craig, and so there may have to be part 2 down the track somewhere, because I'm fascinated with the conversation. But I do want to ask you the question I ask of everybody, which is, from your perspective, what does brave feminine leadership mean, and do you think it needs to change?
When you first showed that to me, I said, well, I'm going to take the word brave out and I'm going to put it on the men, because the men need to make brave decisions and sacrifice themselves to ensure we have opportunities for women to lead. I'm surrounded by great women. And I must talk to my sister often, the prejudice against her and her professional career was remarkable.
Yeah.
And I'm, we're not much different in age. And her story versus my story felt like I was the privileged one and she was not. So you can't have that. It's just like, so I think so that's why I said the brave needs to be on those that can really make the change. Liz Broderick, I have a great deal of respect for, and the founder of Male Champions for Change. And I was one of the first to put my hand up and say, let me join and see what difference I could make, and at least, be an activist in the group. And I continue to do as best as I can in that. But it's organizations like that, where the men can make a difference. It's people like Liz that keep people accountable and on it. I in key leadership positions, when I always remember this. I always remember reading media comments when Julia Gillard was our prime minister, and I thought, those comments wouldn't be there if it was a man as a prime minister. And that's just like, it's wrong. Yeah. I mean, nothing else I can say. It's just simply wrong. So we've got to call it out. Yeah. Someone's got to call it out. We've got to say that's just, it's not appropriate. I think the onus being a woman leader, and I can't speak that I'm not a woman leader, but I can just hear what women leaders go through, is far greater than that for a man. So that gap has to close, and it's on the men to close it. And it's ongoing on the women to. I think this organization, Heads Over Heels, which helps support women startup leaders. I contribute to that as well, because that's fantastic, seeing some of the stuff and the leadership and the ideas that come out of that are brilliant. But we have to do more of that, because unless there's action, and again, come to the word is you can come up with ideas and with strategies and positioning down the road, but there has to be daily action. So for me, Brave Feminine Leadership is about action today.
I had the pleasure of interviewing Liz in a previous series, and we had a brilliant conversation. And it was interesting because I had also spoken to David Thodey, and he also was one of the original male champions of change. And he said to me at the time, when I said, "How did you get into that?" He said, "Well, if Liz calls, you don't say no." Which
it's pretty much Liz's sister Carolyn is our chief medical officer, so I'm involved with the Broderick family, all very high achievers. But thank God for Liz, because honestly, having someone championing the change, and she's more than anyone seen the difficulty. And I have traveled through places in Africa and places in Southeast Asia, and I've seen how women are treated. And so that coming back to a first world country like we have here, there's just no excuse.
No, absolutely not. Thank you so much, Craig, for spending the time with me and adding your voice to this conversation, and for being an activist. And I'm not so sure that your slip of tongue at the start of the interview around socialite, I'm not quite sure that was incorrect. Now that I understand more about you, I think there's a good sense of FOMO going on there, which is, I'm sure, what makes you such a wonderful, engaged leader. But thank you for joining me.
Anytime. It's great that you do it. It's always good to talk about people's journeys and listening to other people's stories, because that's how you learn.